You gotta shake your head. That's all you can do at this point. You know you've exhausted everything when you just sit there and you just shake your head. This is the world we live in now.
Welcome back to Live Now from Fox. I'm Jeanne Francine. I want to give you all another live look out in New York City. One, because it's a beautiful skyline shot, one of my favorite in the U.S. But also, as we are discussing the very latest of border security, we also need to talk about the migrant crisis. Joining us live this morning to further explain is Fox 5 New York's Lisa Evers. Lisa, we always appreciate you joining us here on Live Now. I know this time last week we were discussing those debit cards that were being given to the migrants, and then recently finding out this week about those migrants that were living in those stores allegedly paying rent. What are you hearing on your end?
Well, Jeanne, a lot of things, and it seems now as if almost every day or every other day there are more stories coming out about this spillover effect of this migrant crisis, which New York City Mayor Eric Adams said would actually doom the city at some point. That's probably the most dismal thing he's ever had to say about this. But in terms of the furniture store, there is a furniture store owner in Queens. He is immigrated here from Senegal about 10 years ago. He had dozens of migrant men from West Africa in his basement, sleeping on cots, sleeping on mattresses, and the floor of his basement, the basement of the furniture store there. Then it turns out that in the Bronx, he also owned another store, and he had this similar situation, these mattresses. And remember, it's cold here in New York right now. We're in the middle of winter. There's space heaters, which are very dangerous. There were extension cords, all types of things which the fire department felt was a fire hazard. So they shut down both of those locations. But you're talking over 100 men, at least 45 beds, about 70 men in each location, and some of them reportedly were paying up to $300 a month just to have a place to sleep. Now, what's happened this week is you're showing the video of the migrant crime wave that we've been experiencing here in New York, and it's reached a point where people are saying this has gone too far. It's very organized, as you see with the video right there with the moped ring. They had 62 incidents. They were being given orders by a man over WhatsApp of what to rob and what to steal. You see them stealing bags, they were stealing phones, and some of them were already arrested. But here's the problem. Once they're arrested, the NYPD, because New York City is a sanctuary city, has no liaison with ICE. Yes, ICE is very active here in the New York area, as you can imagine. They could not just pick up the phone as you would in many other cities in the United States and say, hey, we just arrested a guy for assault. We just arrested a guy for a robbery. He's been charged. We want to turn him over to you. He's also a repeat offender, which has been the other sore point to many New Yorkers, law-abiding New Yorkers here. We want to turn him over to you, but they can't do that in New York, New York City, because it's a sanctuary city. The Mayor Adams in the past has been very proud of the fact that this is New York. We can accommodate anybody. We can take in anybody. Early on in the migrant crisis, he said, come here, come to New York. We'll take care of you. And New Yorkers, quite frankly, are getting fed up with it. We had, as you mentioned last week,
that's why families are leaving. They're leaving. I have a lot of family up north, and they're tired. They're tired of it. They're wanting to leave. And then to piggyback off of something she said earlier, it made me think. They was talking about the guy who had all these people living in his basement. You got space heaters, cords, everything running through there, man. You like, well, that's his problem. No, it's not. It's his problem. It's his neighbor's problem. It's everybody's problem. Because if that house catches fire, what's to say it doesn't catch fire to the houses next door to it? Like, no, it's not just his problem. And then the crime starts.
$13 a day per person, debit cards being given to the migrants. Many New Yorkers who are having to stand online at food banks every week are saying, wait a minute, what about us? That would certainly go a long way to helping us with our groceries. We're working, we're trying to make ends meet here. But in terms of the crime wave, we've seen assaults on police officers. We've seen shooting of a tourist in Times Square. Some of these are underage migrants. They're teens, part of these rings that they're being groomed into and attracted into or forced into by various means. We've seen other types of crimes going on. The Migrant Shelter, men's shelter on Randall's Island, they just decided this week that they would put in metal detectors there because there have been so many problems at that particular location. So it's been one thing after another, complete disregard for the law. And a lot of times they felt like, okay, if they were wearing masks, if they were wearing hoodies, if they had their faces covered, there was very little way to identify them. And because they came across the border, basically the open door that is the southern border of the United States, the southwestern border, they came across. There's no fingerprints. There's no type of ID. There's no type of any type of identification like that. So the police have really had to do a lot of extra work to just even try to figure out who are these individuals. So they arrest them, they indict them, but they can't if it's not a bail eligible crime, which some of these, believe it or not, still are not in New York City and New York State. They have nowhere to put them or send them because we are a sanctuary city. So this week, Mayor Adams said, listen, I think it's time. I love the concept of a sanctuary city. I'm not saying end it, I'm saying amend it. And he proposed to the city council that they have a liaison with the local ICE office here, so that if there are these repeat offenders, which many of them are, even the young ones, the underage ones, have a liaison with ICE on these repeat offenders, have a way so that NYPD can just pick up the phone or send an email and say, listen, we have these guys here, they're at such and such a precinct, can you please come pick them up? ICE comes and picks them up, as they do in other cities, and then boom, that's it. They're out of New York. New York taxpayers, which are people are just going crazy over the amount of taxes here that people have to pay, how expensive everything is. New York taxpayers don't have to pay to house that person in a city or county jail, feed them, house them, and continue to give them whatever benefits package they have as migrants. And they can be gone. Some of them might come back, but they will definitely be gone for a period of time. But more importantly, the message will be sent wherever they came from that crime is not being tolerated. What we have now, Gina, is we have criminal rings. They're actually going into stores with specific orders of what they need to steal, shoplifting it, then getting on buses, taking it down to Florida, selling it in Florida, and then coming back here in New York. They don't dare stay in Florida because they know if they get caught for these types of crimes, these armed robberies and these assaults and these purse snatchings and phone snatchings and chain snatchings in Florida, they're going to end up in jail and they're going to end up deported. Because
remember the video we watched about Oakland and how bad it is over there, about how the laws that were passed kind of benefited the criminals, and how if you go in a store and you steal something under a certain dollar amount, nothing's really going to happen to you. So now it's a free-for-all. That's basically what it is. It's a free-for-all. And it's so bad out there that the cops can't really do nothing. They can't do nothing. New York is going to slowly get there if they don't correct this situation fast. You can already see it playing out. And then the people, the citizens, will become prisoners of their own homes until they, and the sad thing about it is some people will want to move, but can't afford to move and just uproot their lives and their jobs. So then you'll just be prisoners of your own home, and nobody wants that.
They will have a liaison with ICE to send them back. So it's just every day it seems there is just another development of signs of just how impactful this migrant crisis has been in New York City and what it's doing to the daily quality of life. And it's not even, yes, we've seen some of the neighborhoods, you talk about the furniture store, well, that impacted the residents. And how did the authorities find out about it in Queens? There's millions of people in Queens. They found out about it because of all of the activity, people living next door, people living in the neighborhood, saying there are men coming and going, dozens of men coming and going, day and night. There's a lot of activity. In the Bronx, they saw same thing with a lot of e-bikes parked out front. They're like, wait a minute, what are they doing here at 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning, coming and going, a lot of noise, a lot of disruption, not to mention the safety issues. And Gina, as you know, we've been having a big crisis here just with these e-bike battery fires. So there's a lot of concerns here, and it's just the mayor seemed to be at his breaking point, City Council saying, no way, we're not changing the sanctuary city statute on political grounds. A lot of New Yorkers, just general public, talking about this, saying something has to be done because it is just deteriorating. And you know, it's not even a question of what neighborhood or if you're living in a certain neighborhood. This is visible. The signs of strain are everywhere in the city. You stop at a stoplight and you'll see a woman selling candy bars or selling fruit or selling bottles of water. A lot of them have little babies. I mean, babies that are not even a year old, tied to their backs as they're trying to make ends meet here. So what are we really talking about? Is this really humanitarian? Is this a humanitarian way for us to even treat individuals like that? So a lot of questions being raised about this, Janae, but the big thing, people have just, after the debit cards and just seeing the crime and then knowing that a lot of these people committing the crime are repeat offenders, the mayor goes, they don't deserve to be in our city. And a lot of New Yorkers are saying, that's common sense. They're breaking the law. They shouldn't be here in the first place, but if they are here breaking the law, they definitely should not be allowed to stay. So it looks like it's going to be another stalemate for the mayor moving forward on this one, Janae.
Lisa Evers with Fox 5 New York. We always appreciate your expertise and dialogue. Thank you so much for joining us this morning on Live Now from Fox to give us all of the latest developments of the migrant crisis. You enjoy the rest of your day.
Tight quarters in the basement of a furniture store in South Richmond Hill, Queens. Cell phone video shows beds and migrants, all of them from Africa, squeezed into this room, 2 to a bed. Migrants sleeping in shifts, only 2 bathrooms. Ibu Sar runs the furniture store upstairs and says he's the man behind all of this.
When they started coming to me, telling me their stories, I started helping them. I didn't want to do it, you know. I thought about it twice.
Once the city started enforcing a 30-day limit for single migrant adults staying at city-run shelters, Sar says the men were forced to sleep on the streets. And why was this?
And I respect him for having a good heart. Don't get me wrong. You know what I mean? I'm not an animal. I don't want to come off as that way. You know what I mean? But a lot of times when you do certain things and you have a good heart and people take advantage of it, you know? And in some of these instances, that's what is happening. They've got to these people to stay with them and then turned it into a crime area. And that's what we're seeing. Something that started out as so innocent and you thought you were helping, you ended up contributing to the problem. And there's no way for you to know.
It's better than a shelter.
Because here you don't have problem to go for your work like that. In the shelter, sometimes every month you go back to Manhattan to write your name and he send you another place.
Sar says the basement shelter had rules, no cooking on site.
2 in the top, 2 in the bottom, queen bunk beds.
He says he didn't charge the men rent, but he collected whatever they could come up with each month.
It broke my heart. I'm proud of them. They're all hard-working people.
But it didn't take long for the next-door neighbor to notice what was going on. She asked that we not show her face on camera.
One morning I came out here to go to work. I see about 20 e-bikes and I got pictures of them.
The neighbor believes this unsanctioned migrant shelter was running for at least 2 months. She called 311 to report what she was seeing.
I just couldn't do it no more. All night long, people running in and out that building, that door slammed. I have not got a wink of sleep.
DOB inspectors discovered that migrants were also sleeping in the furniture store. They said the basement had no natural light and no ventilation. After noticing the severe overcrowding and dangerous fire trap conditions, the city ordered everyone out.
What did you sleep last night?
That's the part nobody thinks about. You know, you think you're doing a good deed, but you don't think about the fire hazards and different things that could happen. You don't think about your neighbors, people running in and out all night long, creating a disturbance and stuff like that. You don't think about none of that. All of that type of stuff, man, people don't want to deal with and have to deal with, and you don't think about because you're trying to help. But this is a problem. This is a problem, and there's no way you can control it.
In the subway. Yeah.
So you didn't get any sleep. It's very hard to sleep.
Yeah, you see.
We're back now with the record number of migrants crossing into the U.S., pushing resources to the limit in many American cities. Now hospitals are sounding the alarm, saying they're also overwhelmed, including some far from the border. Julia Ainsley has our report.
Tonight, the border crisis surging. Officials telling NBC News there were over 200,000 illegal crossings at the southern border last month, and a record 3 million migrants crossed the border in the last year. Now, a new warning 1,000 miles away in New York City, where officials tell us resources are overwhelmed. Across public hospitals in New York City over the last year, nearly 30,000 visits by migrants and 300 new babies born to migrant moms. Staff here at Bellevue Hospital tell us they're eager to help, but the numbers are tough.
This has been the hardest work that I've ever done, but it's been the most impactful work that I've ever done.
And most of the visits to the taxpayer-funded legal clinic here are by migrants.
Our clinics are full, and there are waiting lists, and people are turning people away or referring them to other places.
Randy Redkin from New York's Legal Assistance Group says so many migrants are asking for legal help on asylum representation and health care access. Now, she says, American citizens who need legal assistance with issues like eviction and insurance have to wait up to 10 weeks.
If you ask me, do we need more resources for legal services? I would say absolutely yes.
Meanwhile, New York's governor now slamming the situation at the border.
It is too open right now. People coming from all over the world are finding their way through, simply saying they need asylum.
And New York Mayor Eric Adams saying providing services for migrants will cost city taxpayers $12 billion. But Biden administration officials have blamed Adams.
If I'm living in New York, man, I'm walking around with my pockets out. I got the rabbit ears. I got the bunny ears. My pockets is out, meaning I ain't got it, fam. What more can you take from me? You're already killing my check as it is with taxes. Now you want to raise more taxes? Bro, you can't get blood from a stone, man. You can't. My rabbit ears is out. I ain't got it, fam. I ain't got it.
Response. It is not an operationally sound effort, one senior DHS official told NBC News. Meanwhile, migrants on the streets are desperate for city help. We met Orlando, who fled violence in Venezuela. He didn't want to appear on camera, telling us he slept on the street before coming to Bellevue for cancer treatment.
How is that for you, given your medical condition, to be sleeping on the street?
You have to make believe it's a good bed, a king size, and you lie down wherever and go to sleep, he says. Orlando tells us he came to New York because he heard about the social services the city would offer to migrants like himself, who are trying to start a new life.
The Biden administration recently granted temporary legal status to nearly 500,000 Venezuelans, allowing them to work. Today, Governor Hochul announced there are 18,000 jobs now available to eligible migrants.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories.
So, Chicago health officials confirming a, quote, small number of tuberculosis cases in migrant shelters across the city. But they're not saying how many. This comes after 56 known measles cases are reported in the Windy City. Chicago Alderman Raymond Lopez has warned about this issue for months, and he joins us now. So, Raymond, you warned them that this was going to happen, but they didn't listen to you. Are they listening now?
You know, Lawrence, good morning. I don't know how much our Department of Public Health or other officials are listening to the alarms that we've been raising since August of last year, and even in September when we had receipts from our ambulances showing that we had individuals testing positive for tuberculosis. This is a crisis we could have avoided, just like with the measles, if we had simply instituted the American standard of vaccines upon all of those migrants being shipped to the city of Chicago. Many of these individuals come with children, they are in our schools, and all of those vaccination requirements that our kids are responsible for are waived for the migrant asylum seeker children. And that is putting people, families, and communities at risk.
You know, Raymond, I've been so perplexed because, you know, I've been out there reporting, talking with the folks. They're upset. I know your district, and the people there are minorities. They're also, you got immigrants there as well. But it seems like the mayor has tried to paint those that are critical of this sanctuary city policy and not having a response to the people there as anti-immigrant.
Without question, we have seen where efforts by this administration to put migrants on a toxic dump site were labeled as racist when people like myself and community opposed it, saying it wasn't healthy for them or for the neighborhood to have all of that dust kicked up. Even when I've brought this issue about tuberculosis, measles, and mumps to the forefront, I've been told that I'm anti-immigrant and xenophobic, even though I'm the great-grandson of immigrants.
I don't understand why people would call you anti-immigrant. No, you're saying there needs to be a better way. There needs to be more control. There needs to be a system in place. There needs to be this is just gone about the wrong way. Totally the wrong way. Nobody's anti nothing. But you're seeing what's happening and understanding that people were yelling and screaming from the rooftops in the beginning saying, whoa, y'all need to get a handle on this. Whoa, this could get bad. Whoa, do you see what's happening? What's a direct result of this going on? What's happening? I know y'all, I can't show it on here, but the older lady walking down the street and then being robbed and different things happening that you're seeing on these videos. People were yelling, trying to say that this could be a byproduct of all of this stuff. And only people want to do is say they're anti. No. Now, don't get me wrong. Some people probably are. Can't speak for everybody because some people are, but that's not the case for some of us.
Immigrants. So they could gaslight all they want, but at a certain point, the truth is going to come out, and we're seeing it come out slowly and steadily now, as we saw with the measles and as we're seeing now with tuberculosis.
Real quickly, because I only got 15 seconds, Raymond, do you think people in Chicago, because of this issue, because I haven't seen people at these city council meetings like this in a long time, do you think they're going to start voting differently just based on this issue alone?
Well, as you mentioned earlier, Americans are fed up with seeing themselves being leapfrogged over by those coming to this country just to get service and support. And I think that at some point, this is going to drive a wedge, particularly for the Democratic Party, my party, with our core base of African American and Latino voters who feel as though we have not invested in them the way we're investing in these migrant asylum seekers.
Such a valid point. A man of the people, Raymond Lopez. If you ever want to know what's going on in Chicago, go visit Raymond. Raymond, thanks so much.
I'm Steve Ducey.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And
Eight migrants are in ICE custody this morning after a raid where police discovered illegal guns and drugs in the house where they were squatting. All of this happening just steps away from an elementary school in the Bronx. And by the way, this is not the first time some of these suspects have been in police custody. Hannah Doba is live for us in New York this morning. Hannah, even more arrests were made in this case just recently.
yeah, good morning, Marquis. We know 7 of the 8 people arrested during last week's raid are now in Immigration and Customs Enforcement custody. 2 of those suspects also faced murder and assault charges in the last year, but they were released. 3 more people were arrested yesterday. We're going to show you some new video. It shows federal agents at this home in the Bronx Wednesday afternoon. There you see it on the security footage. Authorities walking several people out of the home in handcuffs. This all started last Wednesday when police responded to a call about a man with a gun near the school you mentioned. Police chased 2 Venezuelan migrants with illegal guns into their home, where they discovered they had been squatting in the basement. Here's a look at that basement. Inside, police say they found several more guns, cocaine, and ketamine, all in the presence of a 7-year-old child. 5 more men and 1 woman were arrested. Now, the suspect who prompted that 911 call that set all of this off, it's this guy on your screen, Hector De Sousa Villalta. He was accused of shooting a man last year. He was charged with attempted murder, but was later released.
Why are our cops there a second time arresting people that, one, had an open gun indictment walking the streets, one had an open attempted murder shooting in Yonkers?
And that's the question so many are asking. Now, when it comes to De Sousa Villalta's latest appearance in court, a judge let him go again on supervised release, despite the DA's request to set bail. The same judge released 2 other squatters, and another judge let 3 more go on supervised police. Now, the Police Benevolent Association of New York say officers are doing their jobs, but they can't keep arresting repeat offenders. And judges need to hold them accountable. Mark, I know this is happening in New York, but we've been seeing these cases nationwide.
Yeah, across the country. It's hard to wrap your mind around why it keeps happening. Hannah Doba, thanks so much.